Welcome, everybody, to The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm Chris Stewart, Trent Richardson, AJ McCarron. As always, your experts, two Bama greats, joining me each and every week, or I'm joining them. I don't know. We're together. We're glad you're with us, and we are glad to have new episodes of the show drop each week on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're looking for the show, just go to the dynastybama.com. We've also want to remind you that wherever you're listening, we want you to rate, review, and be sure to check us out across social media at The Dynasty Bama is where you'll find us again at The Dynasty Bama. Coming up today, we're going to dive into Alabama's continued hot streak on the recruiting trail. They are having very familiar success in recruiting since last time we talked. Two more 5-stars have committed to the Tide. Also, we're going to talk about our most anticipated games of the season. AJ and Trent are going to share their experiences of playing in some of college football's biggest rivalries and supposedly toughest venues as well. And we're going to wrap things up by looking ahead to SEC Media Days and talking about the guys the guys' experiences at that event, which can be much ado about nothing, but can also be pretty entertaining as well. Guys, when Nick Saban retired and after last year getting into the game late, all of that with a new coaching staff and the turnover that naturally occurs in that, Bama was supposed to no longer be Bama. A hiccup on the season with the 9 wins, but it was surely going to mean the end of recruiting success, right? I mean, no way Alabama was going to be able to recruit anymore, except they forgot the piece that Alabama is still Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer and that coaching staff had a pretty good track record of recruiting with less. So why wouldn't they recruit well with the Alabama brand to recruit with? Trent, it is very nice to see from a Bama perspective that the Tide is indeed still rolling on the recruiting trail.
I'm just shocked that it surprised people. Like, don't get it twisted. First of all, Nick ain't gone too far. Don't and I know this is not Nick team, but uh, he is. I guess I could say the godfather of college football, and we do have his presence right there in Tuscaloosa, right? And that's going to be always be a plus. But what Caleb DeBoer is doing with this recruiting class this year is showing a lot of people like, hey, I've been doing this now. Listen, my
Yeah.
staff is prepared to take on anything. And when you look at how they're recruiting, it's a surprise to me to get all those big name guys in so fast and because you got to think about this and I kind of got a gist of it, right? When you got a plan for the years ahead when you're talking about recruiting now. So you might go get one good guy. You might be recruiting the top 3 or 4, but you might only get one. And if you do get him, that's good. But you got to prepare for that next year. Like, okay, I can sacrifice this, and I can gain this because you got to think about how high is that room, like the receiver room right now in Alabama. It's some money in that room. So you got to think about the guys, the cornerback room. It's going to be some money in that room. Your quarterback room. He's going to always have to be taken care of, right? And so you got to know, like, okay, you can't go get the big time receiver this year. We got too much in this. We got too much in this room. You can't go get a big time running back this year. We got too much. Okay, we need to focus on the O-line. So when you think about recruiting now, that's how you got to think about it. So I'm not surprised Alabama doing what they're doing. Alabama being a recruiting monster, regardless. And Courtney's doing a great job over there too. So shouts out to those guys, man. I'm proud of.
AJ?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's enough tradition there for the kids that uh still like going to schools with tradition and the success um in the history of the program, but I mean, it's hard for me to not be honest, right? And this whole recruiting process now comes down to money. So, um not only from a rev share standpoint, but I think Alabama what will give Alabama the edge, right? And I think Coach DeBoer and his staff understands this and is gaining more knowledge to this side of it, right? Is the true NIL side of it. When you're successful as a player at Alabama, your NIL can be much more than a lot of other places. And when you're actually doing things off your name, image, and likeness, and having success at Alabama and winning a lot of games and having a chance to win not just one national championship, but multiple, or be in the talks year in and year out, your name, image, and likeness money is going to be a lot more than other places, right? And I think that, and we'll get into it, but I think that proves my point, when it comes to, the other school, or so-called big school in our state.
Nice shot. Uh, we
Coming
will
out
get
coming out early. Just
coming
pew,
out
pew,
early.
pew, pew.
What a shock. What a shock. You're firing early. Um, hey, let's go this route with it. And again, Stadarian Morgan, top player in the state of Alabama, top 12 in the country. Jaira Edwards, safety, third best safety in the country, according to 24/7 Sports, beat out Auburn and Georgia for it. 19 commits now, fifth ranked class per 24/7 Sports and on three. Five-star commits. Nobody else has more than two right now on this AJ. So, in your mind, what makes a good staff? What makes a good, um, from a recruiting standpoint, what makes a good staff?
Well, listen, I think it's, and I'm sure Coach DeBoer has probably had plenty of talks with Coach Saban about this, but I think it's the Coach Saban model, right, that he used. I'm not trying to hire the best position coaches in the world. I want my offensive coordinator to be the best in the country. I want my D coordinator to be the best in the country. And I want my special teams guy to be the best in the country. Other than that, the position coaches, I want those guys to be the best recruiters in the country, the best used car salesman in the country. Like I
Right.
want them to go be able to, um, you know, sell ice to an Eskimo. Like that's what I want, right? And I think the more you build into that model, because it's different at the University of Alabama. Coach Cochran used to always say it. Listen, we're recruiting, you know, Ferraris and Lambos and stuff. Like I just want to bring them here and put some different rims on them. Like
Right.
I think he's famous for. I just want to put some spinners on that. Right. So that's what you're doing. You don't need to mold and completely change these players. You're recruiting them for a reason because they're the best players in the country in high school. So take them. How do you allow them to gain more horsepower? Might put a body kit on it. Like change it up, the looks, but don't change how they play and their playing style. So I think that's how you build a good staff when you have a head coach that truly believes in what he's doing and his standard and how he wants things to go day in and day out. When you can build a coaching staff that's the best recruiters in the country around you, you can be successful.
Last couple of years, Bama's made a concerted effort to bring in some taller wideouts and tight ends. Um, do you think, or what do you think of the strategy? I'll tell you, for me, Coach Saban always had a formula of what he wanted to recruit. There was not necessarily a cookie cutter, but close to it for what he wanted his receivers, his linemen, every position almost, AJ. He knew what he wanted those guys to look like. And granted, they wound up looking like NFL guys. Is it so much that, or is it just finding the style and the look of what you want in a player at a position group?
I think it's a little bit of both, right?
Obviously, Coach Saban's deal worked, but it
Yeah,
worked for him. It may not work for what Kalen DeBoer likes to do, and I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying that, you know, is it more important to get what you think the formula is rather than just go out and grabbing guys with stars by their name if they don't fit who you are?
100%, right? Because you have to be able to recruit to the style of your offense. I think it's been proven over time, um, you know, with the style of recruits that, let's just say a Gene Chizik offense compared to a Gus Malzahn offense, right? Like, and the offense in the past for Alabama, from what we ran, is going to be a different mindset when it comes to possibly O line. I mean, it's the same as any defensive scheme, right? It's you have to recruit the guys that fit your scheme the best. And if that's a bigger receiver because you want more size on the outside. And then when you recruit a couple small guys, those are your inside slot guys to where, all right, we're running drags, crossing mesh concepts, like crossing routes with them. Um, it's big on getting the style of player that best fits your offense. And I think that's where you're seeing the difference with Coach DeBoer.
Trent, we had talked a lot about the running backs and what that what that looks like. Um, we know that's always going to be important. We know that's always going to matter. It doesn't matter what your scheme is. But does the running back position need to look different for Kalen DeBoer from what it looked like under Nick Saban? Is he wanting his running backs to do things that much differently from what Nick Saban wanted done?
Um, for me, I just when I was playing, we was just in a different offense, right? We was more run downhill. We was, we was gonna get in the ISO, we was gonna get in the pistol, single back. We was able to run it out of shotgun too, regardless. But it wasn't so much running sideways for the running back. It was more okay. You're getting downhill, so you can have that, that downhill run. And for me, I think, I mean, because even when I was there, I was like the third leading receiver on the team. I think it was Mays, Smelly, then it was me. And
Yeah,
so I don't know how far away it is from doing exactly what Coach Saban wanted us to do. Because at the end of the day, we had to protect AJ, or Greg, whoever it was. You gotta make sure the quarterback's protected, and you got to know the concept of the play of the concept of the play. And when you know that much, the game slow down, the game is easier, and then you're available more because like it's small stuff that you can do with your quarterback, with your O line, with receivers, and when you know the concept of it, it it makes it so easy for these guys. And so for me, I think when it comes to the board, just how he's recruiting, I think he's trying to get back to that downhill running. Because you look at the guys that he's recruiting, far as running backs, them guys ain't no pushover guys, and these guys
right.
ran what 210 out of high school. I mean, you get down there, they're gonna put some weight on you, they're gonna put muscle on you. I mean, so them guys, they ain't doing nothing too far from what we was doing, man. I'm proud of what these guys are doing and what they're generating over there, in the running back room.
Also, though, I think, AJ, people tend to think that just because you've had this run with Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, um, we can go through, Lacey, Derrick Henry. I mean, all these guys, Najee Harris.
TJ Yeldon,
It is not, yeah, TJ Yeldon. It is not
King and Drake.
common to have a stretch of guys who were all truly NFL guys. And most of those guys, big, strong, physical runners as well with NFL type speed. I mean, yes, it's great if you can get those guys every year, but they don't make those guys every year at that
Mhm.
level.
Right.
So that's gotta impact it to a degree, does it not?
Well, yeah, 100%. Listen, I mean, there was a run right there and let that where it was almost a you set a unreal standard, a standard that is hard to capture again, right? But that's what makes Alabama playing at Alabama and coaching at Alabama such a sought after job, right?
Right.
It's the pressure that comes with it because we set that standard, and it's not just us. And I say we, I'm talking about the history. Every player at the University of Alabama back in the '90s, um, when they were on an absolute tear during that time, right? Even before then, like it's the history of being so successful as a football program, but um, it's hard to live up to that standard year in and year out. And but that's I think that's what makes Alabama such a special place to play at or coach at is because of the pressure that comes with it. It's either the pressure's either gonna create a diamond or it's not. And that's the fun part. That's what excited me about playing at Alabama was having to go out and win every Saturday. And if you didn't, then it was the world was falling apart. Right. And
Yeah.
I, to me, it's such a special place to play at and be at. And I think it's different from any other university there is.
We talk Alabama. There's plenty to talk about just on the Alabama campus, but, um, when it warrants here on the podcast, we will, uh, discuss other teams and yes, Auburn included in that mix because it's pretty noteworthy, I think, for everybody in the SEC and around the country when Bama has the success they've had and Auburn not only struggles, but their head coach, um, basically says that the reason Auburn's not successful right now in recruiting is because we're doing what the House settlement is supposed to do. Basically insinuating they're playing by the rules and they're the only ones that are, or they're among the few that are. And I already see Trent's ready to go after this one. Um, three commits from the state of Alabama's top 10. Auburn's got just one. Um, how big a deal is this in the grand scheme? Recruiting momentum, how does it impact in-season play? And as a player, when your team gets a big recruit at your position, how motivating is that? And also as a Bama guy, how nice is it to see your team do well and see the other side struggle?
Well, I'll just start by saying this: Hugh Freeze is full of shit. Okay, and I think Hugh Freeze is trying to do whatever he can to save face. Um, he's starting to feel pressure at Auburn. Um, I think not going into his third year, not having the success that the alumni, the boosters, everybody donating a lot of money thought that he would have by this point. I think he's trying to figure out and scramble on why they are not successful. I played golf with somebody that's really connected uh, at Auburn, and he was even talking about it from a sense of supposedly they had 50 million leading up to this year in their collective that they were wanting to, go out and get athletes. And they're pissed on the fact that it hasn't been successful like they thought it would be. And I think Hugh Freeze, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, right? The state of Alabama is ran by Alabama fans, Alabama alumni, whether you like it or not, right? And I've never been one to absolutely just hate on Auburn. Hell, I've caught in hell from Alabama fans for uh, cheering for some of my friends that played at the at Auburn. I think it proves, like I was talking about with recruits, if you are from the state of Alabama, I think it is dumb for you not to sign with the University of Alabama and pick Auburn over Alabama. And the reason I say that is because life after football, your avenue for success with life after football is a lot greater, bigger, however you want to describe it. I think with being a ex Alabama football player compared to Auburn. I think from a business opportunity, whatever route you want to go after football, I think the University of Alabama supplies more avenues for that. And when I go talk to young kids that are coming out, I tell them, "Do you want to live in the state of Alabama? And if so, I think it's a no brainer to go to the University of Alabama. I think life after football is set up for success, a lot more than Auburn, and I think that has been proven when it comes to the recruiting standpoint. And that's just my take, but I think it also shows with why Hugh Freeze is struggling a little bit.
All right. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the most anticipated games of the season. And we're also going to see what AJ and Trent think about the toughest places to play around the SEC. That's coming up when we continue with more of The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Yeah, it's a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. We call it The Dynasty. Don't forget, thedynastybama.com is where you can find us on social media platforms, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We do ask you please participate by listening, rating, and reviewing, and check us out across all social media at The Dynasty Bama. Guys, we're talking now about the most anticipated games of the season. This is where we got folks involved in social media, got some great response on that. We'll start with mine, if you don't mind. I went the three that weren't necessarily the obvious in terms of biggest games if you're just grabbing the schedule and looking at the marquee matchups. But three that I think are going to give you a pretty good indication of where things are for this team, especially relative to last year. Because we saw with the Georgia game, Auburn, Tennessee, for the most part, I thought played well. Um, you're up for it, you're ready for it, but didn't always handle the next week or that next challenge very well. So, games that I'm really looking forward to seeing, how do you respond? Wisconsin, because you popped them last year up there. They'll be motivated. It'll be, I think, a different effort, a different look from Wisconsin this year when they come to Tuscaloosa. The trip to Missouri, I think, can be very dangerous because it doesn't fall anywhere into the category of some of these other games. And South Carolina, again, where it falls and who they are anticipated being, I think can make it difficult. Now, you guys went the understandable route, I think, with a couple of others, and would start with you, Trent, on the three that you're really looking forward to seeing and why.
Well, I know I said Florida State. Eh, eh, for me, Florida State got to be number one because you're not going to talk a game that you ain't for the write a check that your ass can't cash. So when you talking to me, you better be able to cash that check. Um, and so when I think about Florida State, like just the chatter that's going on right now, that got to be Okay, Alabama, you're gonna shut them up, you're gonna show them who you is. And then after that, like, what's going to be your response after the game too. So um just like Florida State for me is number one. And then I know I said Vandy and Tennessee, but I'm looking at this schedule. South Carolina is a tough place to play at, man. I've been there, done it. I can remember coming off a national championship and going into the season. Me and Mark was the big talk, and they had this guy down there that we was recruiting hard to, named Marcus Lattimore, and
Yeah.
he had a game. Of course, Ryan Garcia played his best game ever. Then they had
Steven.
Alshon Jeffrey, and I was that the last game, and that's my guy too. So was the last game he actually played in too. So it's kind of like one of them things, like even going on the field, they put us by the student section. Man, I can remember, man. Mark was in there dancing, Coach Burns cussing us out because they got us by the students, and it's nothing but beautiful women, y'all. Like, listen, listen. I'm telling y'all, bro. They had us,
I'm gonna leave y'all alone on that one.
bro. They had us two up down there. Like me and Mark looking in the stands, like, oh my god, like what is going on?
Are you saying that was strategically done on the part of the South Carolina? Okay. How'd y'all ever win at Ole Miss then, for crying out loud? Yeah. I mean,
Well, so I got a great story to piggyback off of Trent's talk right there. So the cool thing about South Carolina, their student section goes from like the 30 on South Carolina's sideline, wraps all the way around the end zone and comes to like the 30 on our sideline. And he's not wrong. It's such
he's
a
not
different
wrong.
it's such a different atmosphere there from a sense of
Uh,
being at a Alabama or Ole Miss. Like every girl there was in a,
Careful.
let's just say, small shirt and
Provocative.
yeah, and Daisy Dukes. And there was at one point Kirk Signetti, the receivers coach, had to grab me because I was there playing Sandstorm or one of their songs. I am completely turned around facing the student
Mhm.
section and just watching these girls dance and jump up and down. And Kirk Signetti grabs me and says, "Hey, are you going to pay attention to the game?" And here I am with the headset supposed to be, signaling in plays. And I was in a another atmosphere right then. Um,
Yeah,
but
and for those that have forgotten, you were not playing in that ball game.
yeah,
That
no,
was
no,
still that was still Greg.
yeah, that was still Greg. That was 2010, but
Yeah.
I was very distracted.
Uh-huh.
I'll just leave it at that. So, uh, but so my top three, I think, of course, uh, Georgia playing at Georgia is going to be tough, right?
Sure.
Kirby's going to have those guys ready to go. Bama's had their number for a while now. When we have matched up, um, winning the way we did last year, Georgia basically giving that game away, I think is going to have a lot to do with it. That's going to be a tough one. Um, the second toughest for me has to be South Carolina, and I think South Carolina gave that game away last year. I think that was South Carolina's game to win. Um, that is a extremely tough place to play. When they're successful, when they know they have a good team, and when you're playing at the University of Alabama and you're going to South Carolina to play,
Yeah.
they are going to be ready to go. Coach Beamer is going to have those dudes ready. Um, Sellers, I think, has progressed a ton as a passer. I think he's shown uh, a lot of his ability last year and just got better and better as the year went on. I think their defense is strong. I think they possibly have the best pass rusher in the country who was a freshman last year. I can't remember his name. You'd have to help me out. But number 6, um, that is going to be a extremely tough place to play. If they can get out of those 2 places on the road successful with wins, that would be absolutely huge. The 3rd for me, to see how their defense, if their defense is any better, I think they have the best quarterback in the country is going to be LSU. I think Garrett Nussmeier is the best in the country. Uh, I think he's by far the best in the SEC, and that's not knocking our guy Ty. But Ty hasn't, had the chance to really play and start. So I think if LSU's defense is better this year, hell, if they can play any defense at all, I think LSU's team is a ton more successful than what they were last year. Um, that is going to be a tough game as well. Even though it's at home,
Yeah.
I still see that one being a tough one.
AJ, it sounds like you're almost expecting a Joe Burrow type season. And I don't mean Heisman Trophy winning for Garrett Nussmeier, but I mean going from a guy who preseason after Alabama saw Burrow the first time, there weren't a ton of Bama fans overly concerned. And I'll admit, well, I respect Nussmeier. It gets my attention when I hear you say that he could be the best guy that they'll face in the SEC, because that's not necessarily my first thought. And I'm not sure I've got a counter to that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's not one that jumps off as being truly elite based on what we saw a year ago. But you think there's enough improvement and enough of a ceiling there that he is going to be a difference maker for them.
He is. I thought he was top 5 quarterback in the country last year. The anticipation, accuracy that he throws with, you didn't see that from anybody else in the SEC. Now, Garrett will make mistakes, and this is where Garrett going into his last year, where I think he will. What makes him so dangerous, right, is last year being um, him still being young from a sense of as a starter mindset. I think if he's able to cut down on those mistakes, not pushing the limits on every ball has to be perfect or I need to take a shot right here, and he just plays more within what the defense is giving him, I think he is by far the best in the country. Um, Unreal arm talent. The other thing that he has to be better at this year for LSU to be successful is he needs to use his feet more. He's an athletic kid. He comes from an athletic family. His mom was a damn cheerleader for the Saints. His dad played quarterback in the NFL. I think European ball as well. Like uh, they are his brother. Hell is going to be one of the top quarterback recruits in the country. Eventually, he he has to be able to use his feet more when the pocket does break down, not so much of escaping to throw all the time. And I'm telling you, this kid is just has all the ability in the world. And if he can cut down on the mistakes and not taking so many chances, um, I think he's dangerous.
Why am I not surprised that in running through the Nussmeier family resume, you led with Mama was a cheerleader?
Oh, she's athletic. Hell, she might be the
Uh,
most athletic. I
uh,
used to give Nuss, crap all the time because I think they got all their talent from the mom.
I'm just saying, I'm not surprised that that would be where you started. I commend you on that fact as well. We'll take a break when we come back, our last segment. Stay with us here on The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Glad you're with us here on The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Don't forget, new episodes dropping each week, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, basically wherever you consume your podcast. And if you're looking for the show, just go to thedynastybama.com. Also, hope that you'll please rate and review, share, and check us out across social media. Guys, let's finish today's show on a few different topics. Trent, we're going to talk about biggest rivalries for Alabama, your experiences playing in those games. Auburn, LSU, Tennessee. Obviously, those stand out historically and in the last 20 years as being big ball games. But which of the rivalry games really stood out the most to you?
For me, I would have to say LSU and like playing in Death Valley, man, and like people don't know how difficult it is to play out there. Like, I think for me, like even just the process through the whole week, like they got my number. It was like 12 o'clock. The week we supposed to play them. Um and of course we got a bye week before we play those guys, right? And so
Right.
that bye week, before that, right? And I'm getting 200 text messages, calls, and everything out of nowhere. I'm laying in the bed, and and of course I'm dating somebody at the time, and she like, "Hey, what's going on? What you got going on?" So it was one of those things where like I don't know, and it was nothing but people mooning me, people showing me, like, "Hey, we gonna whoop yo." I'm talking about they was doing anything and everything for 2 weeks straight. But what's crazy is after the game, so the game of the century, after the
Mhm.
game, they all take and say, "Man, we respect you so much, man. You played a hell of a game and did this and that." And they gave me compliments. But the next time we played them in that championship, it started right back again. And what was crazy is it started even longer because we had you had
Had
your
a month.
bowl games. Yeah, you had a month of of people calling me, flicking me off, like all type of crazy stuff. And so for me, that LSU man rival man, it's gonna always be big. I mean, but you can't get away from the traditional Alabama and Auburn. Like it's nothing like that.
Yeah. AJ, what about you being a state of Alabama guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Auburn and Alabama game. So the Iron Bowl itself, I felt from a rivalry standpoint between the players was not as great as it was when we played Tennessee. Um, the Auburn and Alabama game is more for the fans. I always feel like because a lot of those dudes at Auburn, you've been on a ton of visits with them. You're a lot of times from the same state.
Yeah.
Um, and so you create a friendship of some sort with those dudes. Tennessee guys, you hardly ever, I mean, especially during our time, you really just weren't getting recruited to the same places most of the time. There was a lot more hatred, nastiness to that game to where dudes were playing dirty. It brought a different aspect to that game, and that was probably the biggest game. I mean, granted, we whipped Tennessee's ass all 5 years I was there, so it wasn't much of a rivalry, but there was still a lot of animosity in that game between the players.
Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from something that occurred before you guys were ever in Tuscaloosa, before Coach Saban was the head coach. It goes back to Philip Fulmer, uh, and the belief that Tennessee was involved in Alabama getting um, hit as hard as they did by the NCAA. I
Yep.
think that's where a lot of the not just the origin, because the rivalry was big, has been big forever, but I think the fact that a lot of Alabama fans, most Alabama fans, my age, older, maybe a little bit younger, that remember this for so long, also lived during the time that that was occurring. And it's one thing to lose on the field to your rival, but when you feel like stuff was done um, to make it a different, um, to try to end your program or cripple it in a major way, things got personal. And that's just
Mm.
what the belief was for the longest time. And I know I had the mindset like most Alabama fans, yes, we've won 15 times in a row, and if it's 150, it's still not enough. I mean, that's really how the belief was. Now, just like I think for LSU and Alabama, the further you got away from Coach Saban being gone from Baton Rouge, it was so raw, it was so fresh. You guys know it, y'all were part of it. Part of what made that Alabama LSU rivalry as intense as it was is that they loved him. They know, and rightfully so. If Nick Saban never leaves Baton Rouge, he wins 1,000 national championships. Okay? The There would have been no slowdown. There would have been no break, in my opinion. He does everything in Baton Rouge, as much as it pains me to say it, my belief, he does the same thing in Baton Rouge if he doesn't leave that he did in Tuscaloosa. So they not only knew they weren't gonna have it, but dadgummit, Bama was gonna have it, and they were gonna struggle again. It went back and forth. They got their own national titles, and I think that helped to ease the pain, so to speak, over the years. But the Tennessee rivalry, Coach learned pretty quick, didn't he? I don't know that he understood fully. Now he won it, but I know that thing for him, not necessarily personal, but how much it did mean to him and how much pride he had in keeping that thing going for as long as he did. And then Auburn, I mean, look, some of the best wins, some of the most important wins, but also some of the most gut wrenching, goofy, terrible, never forget them losses occurred in that series as well. He's come out and said, "Juggling, that place is haunted, man." He would have never said that while he was coaching, but he came out and said it on ESPN. Now that he's, as I've joked with him, now that you're a damn media guy like me, um, because that's what he always referred to media people as.
Yeah.
Um, he knows that that place was just haunted for a long time when Alabama would go down there. But again, I think they're all meaningful. History changes the timeline on it, but you want to win them all because they're rivals. And plus, at Alabama, you just want to win everything, period.
And to piggyback off that too, and I cannot downplay for me. I know for me being from Florida, um, and at that time it was the Tebow era, it was the Urban Meyer.
Sure.
You know, that was a big one for me too. I love to go back home and brag how I never lost a game in Florida, right? So
Hmm.
that's my thing. When I go back home and being at the same high school that Emmett played at, Emmett Smith, and having the same head coach that he had. Well, he had my head coach was his running back coach, and he was actually Dad Brooks' head coach too. So, shouts out to Jimmy Nichols. He did a great job with that program when he had us. But like to even have that to say when I talked to Emmett Smith, I never lost against Florida. 3 years I was in school. And so, that's a big rival too. And but having that mark with Urban Myers, man, because that was like we changed the whole trajectory of his career when it came to the SEC.
Yeah,
Made him go
definitely.
into retirement.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk to him.
All right. Media days coming up for the SEC taking place next week. Now we're going to be off next week, but we'll have a chance to react to everything that Coach DeBoer and the other coaches say. And you both attended SEC media days, and I'm just curious did you guys enjoy it? Did you dread it? I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna vote AJ loved it. Coach knew you had to go, but he probably dreaded it, not knowing what you were gonna say. I would imagine there was more than a little bit warned to you on that car ride from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham for media
Uh,
days about what you better not say. Is that accurate?
yeah, I mean, probably at least 1 year, but listen, I was always during that time, you know, politically correct and knew how to, uh, I guess, bullshit my way through an interview. But
Mhm.
no, I mean,
I can
it's
attest to
still an
that, by the way.
it's still an awesome experience. Um, I mean, it's an honor because usually I don't know how Coach DeBoer does it, but for us, it was always the captains. Mainly we're going and so it's a cool experience. It's a long day. It's a long process. But it's still awesome to be a part of. I definitely did not want to talk to every media person there. And I let that be known to our media guys or Jeff Puritan or Josh um, beforehand, and then maybe gave them a little bit of crap after for if I did have to talk to somebody I didn't want to. But it's still an awesome experience and something that you should take pride in for sure.
Trent, you were not a big fan of talking back in the day. I know. Didn't seem you didn't seem to be. Not that you weren't polite, not that you didn't do a good job with it, but that wasn't your favorite thing. You preferred to have the ball in your hands and let that do the talking for you. But did you enjoy that at all? Getting to be a part of that?
Man, you know what? I actually did. It was an experience for me,
Yeah,
and like when I actually got to go, for me personally, I felt you know, like I earned that.
sure.
And to 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 know that Coach Saban chose me and my team chose me as a captain to go down there, I had to go down to represent my team. So I took pride in all that, man. So, talking to, some guys, sometimes you get crazy questions, but the talk of the SEC that year was me. And so
Yeah.
I got more crap from our guys coming back, like Dante and Mark, like, hey, if I gotta do another interview about you, we're gonna have problems. Like, so that was my process of, SEC Media Day. Like I enjoyed it. But it's some guys that would try to cross the line, and they would try to get you to say certain stuff. And as AJ would tell you, like, hey, I was, back then I was politically correct when it came to, how I answered certain stuff. But, at the time, man, you had to, for me, it was more of like it's an interview for me for the next level. Like, can I get in these rooms and talk to these guys when I get to the combine, or do I know how to answer these questions? Can I, pronunciate certain words, or do I need to stay away for certain conversations? It's stuff like that. Like you really start to think about going up to the SEC Media Day, like, did I do this the right way? Did I say too many times, or did it, or do I not need to? That was one of them things. But for me, I enjoyed it, man. And for me, I think guys take pride in that stuff, man. If you're chosen to be that guy.
Just for reference, AJ said something about BS in the media. Um, let's just say BS in the media if it were a picture. That's it right
It's a
there.
great picture.
That's a great picture. It is a favorite, but that's your that
I didn't
was
never BSU though. There was especially
you didn't have to.
our
I was
guys.
clueless anyway. So there were guys you had to tiptoe around on some stuff. Last
Yeah,
thing for me. Um the polls will come out. All SEC, the rankings for the SEC. The sports books now have Texas and Georgia as the favorites. Then it's Bama, LSU. Um, LSU, in fact, the only other team with a better than 10-1 odds, according to FanDuel, on this. What, if anything, did Coach Saban say when the polls came out after media days? Was there anything relevant to that he talked about? I got a feeling he downplayed it if you were number 1. If you were number 2, it was talked a whole lot more about in the terms of, "These guys don't believe in you. These guys don't think you're good enough to win it all, blah, blah, blah." Am I anywhere close on that?
I don't remember Coach Saban saying anything about it. Like, I mean, other than we'll get in trouble for being number one. Like, hey, don't buy into the rat poison, to the
Yeah.
BS, and this and that. But other than that, like, one thing Nick has always done, and I touched on this a little bit last year with my guys. Like, when you let the media get inside the building, that's when it start getting corrupt. Like, when has the media ever made Alabama football. Like that was my conversation for the guys last year that was listening to the outside noise. Like the media stuff, when it comes to AP and all, like first of all, who are these guys are putting out these polls, right? Like are they guys in suits or is somebody that actually played the game that knows the game? So a lot of that stuff to me, it's almost like the 4-star, 3-star, 5-star thing when you get to the next level. Like that don't matter.
Right.
You're gonna have to play because everybody gonna be a 5-star. Because when they prepared for the game, you got to be a 6-star, right? You got
Yeah.
to be a 7-star there. You got to know football. You got to know your sport. So for me, I don't remember Coach Saban really like buying into that stuff. And I mean, anything we get cussed out for being the top guys, and so he never really liked that either. So
Even that's using it though, AJ.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it may not be saying, um, you're buying it, but referencing it any manner is basically using that, trying to use it to your advantage, which coach was as good as there's ever been at that.
Oh, 100%. Listen, he would tell you, I don't read the newspaper or pay attention or watch it. He watched everything and saw everything. I
Yeah.
promise you that. You went in his office, he had the TV on, it was on ESPN. He's watching the talk shows. Like he wants to hear what people are saying so he can also, right, he coach would play dumb from that aspect of, I hadn't heard anything about it, or I promise you he's seen everything, and he's had somebody come tell him whatever's being said if he hasn't seen it himself, right?
Right.
And he would use that from a psychological standpoint to be able to feed it to his team however he wanted. And you made a great point, Chris. Like if guys were, doubting the team, I haven't seen it, but I got guys coming up telling me this. Like that's how he played it. So he
Right.
was great at doing that. He was great at, using that to fuel the team, fuel the fire. He knew what he was doing at all times. Listen, he's um I think he has a master's, and I know he has a degree in psychology. So everything was a mind game with Coach Saban. Even our, you know, uh, doc, I can't remember who
talking about
was
the
our,
Wizard,
huh?
talking about Wizard, talking about the Wiz.
Yeah, from Michigan
Ah,
State
what
that he
is
had
Elko?
for all those years.
no, not Dr.
No, no.
Elko.
Okay.
Nah, it wasn't Elko.
But even with him, Dr. Elko and Trevor and all those guys, and what was our other guys? Nesby and
Yeah, I mean, Coach had ends with everybody, right?
Right.
So whoever you're talking to, he's got ears on. People used to joke all the time, like every office was bugged. Like he somehow he finds out everything. He's gonna hear everything, and when it comes to the media, he's gonna hear it all, and he's gonna figure out what's the best way to distribute this to the team. Whether it's rat poison or hey, they're doubting you, like he's gonna find a way to fuel that fire.
I'll tell you this, none of that surprises me. And based on everything I've witnessed myself and heard, I agree with you completely. Except I was always amazed at the contrast where he did know everything, and yet he also had this amazing tunnel vision. And I'll give you the prime example. I think you guys were playing this particular year. You're playing Mississippi, or Alabama's playing Mississippi State at home. So it's the last conference game before you're going to have that non-conference game and then the Auburn game. Okay. So it's the last SEC game. If Auburn loses to Georgia, which at that time was their next to last conference game, if Auburn loses, you're assured of going to the SEC championship, regardless of what happens against Mississippi State and Auburn. So it's done. Auburn's out of it. You're automatically Western Division champions if Auburn loses that day. you're going through pregame warmups, or Alabama is. Again, I think, as memory serves, you guys were on this team. The announcement comes over. Of course, people knew because they had their phones anyway. But the announcement comes over the PA at Bryant-Denny. Auburn has lost to Georgia. Place goes nuts. We do the game. Bama wins against State. We're doing the TV show with Coach Saban afterwards. And so we get to the last segment, which is what's next. And it's going to be a bye week. And it would be during that time in the break where Coach would always ask what happened with other games. He'd make sure he was set and oriented. So it comes up that Auburn loses to Georgia, and he turns and looks at me and he goes, so we would have won regardless of what happened in our game tonight. We would have had the West wrapped up. And it floored me. He was so locked in, he didn't know. Or I'll put it this way. I know he's a heck of a poker player and a salesman, but he gave every indication, with nothing to be gained by it. He gave every indication that he was so locked in. And I've seen some other things, where his tunnel vision is such that he is so worried and focused on what's dead in front of him. He doesn't even he's not thinking about the external stuff. When it comes to game day, that point, those elements. So again, there was no reason for him to fool me or to try to fool me in that moment. I really think he was so locked in, he had no flipping clue, because all he was thinking about was what's it going to take to beat Mississippi State in that day.
Well, yeah, he probably didn't know, one, because he probably didn't hear the announcement, probably wasn't paying
Oh, sure.
attention to it, and then two, there was everybody on his staff was, so scared to come up and even say anything
Exactly.
because they knew they'd get an ass chewing where we're not worried about that game. What the
Exactly.
are you trying to come up like?
Yeah. That's my point, though.
Yep.
Is
We're
when
having a
he was
game
the
right
only
now.
person he was the only person in that stadium that did know Alabama didn't have to win that game to win the SEC. Not that
Yeah.
it would have changed what you were trying to do, which is why he wasn't worried about it.
Yep.
But it was always that piece of it. So tunnel vision. I've got other examples we'll share later on. I know you all can better than I as well. Guys, always enjoy it. Appreciate you. We appreciate you joining us. Again, like, subscribe, share at The Dynasty Bama, and you can also find us YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's thedynastybama.com. For AJ, for Trent, I'm Chris. Roll Tide, everybody.